Obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 2, Chapter 2, Verse 90. Ityam munestu parame devavastito vignana dugvir surinditashayah swapashnina pindya gudam tato nilam sthane susatsunnamaye jitkwalam.
By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot and by lifting the air from one place to another in the 6 primary places.
Verse 20. Nabhyastitam hridiropyatasma duda nagatyorasintam nayen munihi tatonu diya manasvi swatula moolam shanake nyayet.
The meditative devotee should slowly push up the life air from the navel to the heart, from that to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. He should search out the proper places with intelligence.
Verse 21. Tasmad bhuvorantaranamudnayet niruddha saptayatano napekshah sthitva muhurta dharmakushta drushti nirbidya murdhan vrisajet param gatah.
Thereafter, the Bhakti Yoga should push the life air up between the eyebrows and then blocking the 7 outlets of the life air. He should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. If he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyment, he should then reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme.
Verse 22. Yadi prayasyan nrupaparameshtyam vayyayasana viharam ashtadipatyam gunasannivaye saheva gachena manasendriyescha.
However, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments like transference to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, or the achievement of the Eightfold Perfections, travel in outer space with the Vaihayasas, or a situation in one of the millions of planets, then he has to take away with him the materially molded mind and senses.
Verse 23. Yogeshwarana gatimahuranta बहिस्त्रिलोक्या पवनान्तरात्मानां न कर्मभिस्ता गतिमाप्नुवन्ति विद्या तपोयोगसमाधिभाजम्.
The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted. Within and beyond the material worlds, the fruitive workers or the gross materialists can never move in such an unrestricted manner.
Verse 24. वैश्वानरं याति विहाय सा गतः शुषुम्नया ब्रह्मपथेन शोषिषा विद्युत्कल्कोऽथ हरेरुदस्तात् प्रयाति चक्रं नृपशैषुमारम्.
O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Sushumna to reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, he goes first to Vaishvanara, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations, and thereafter he still goes higher to the circle of Shishumara to relate with Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead.
Verse 25. तद्विश्वनाभिं ततवीत्वर्त्य विष्णो रणीयसा विरेजनात्मनैकः नमस्कृतं ब्रह्मविदामुपैति कल्पायुषो यद्विबुधा रमन्ते.
This Shishumara is the pivot for the turning of the complete universe, and it is called the navel of Vishnu, Garbhotakashai Vishnu. The yogi alone goes beyond this circle of Shishumara and attains the planet Mahadloka, where purified saints like Bhrigu enjoy duration of life of 4.3 billion solar years. This planet is worshipable even for saints who are transcendently situated.
Verse 26. अथोऽनन्तस्य मुखानलेन दन्दयमानं सनरेक्ष्य विश्वं निर्याति सिद्धेश्वरयुष्टधिष्ण्यं यद्वै परार्ध्य तदुपारमेष्ठ्यम्.
Translation. At the time of the final devastation of the complete universe, the end of the duration of Brahma's life, a flame of fire emanates from the mouth of Ananta, from the bottom of the universe. The yogi sees all the planets of the universe burning to ashes, and thus he lives for Satyaloka by airplanes used by the great purified souls. The duration of life in Satyaloka is calculated to be 15 trillion 480 billion years.
Verse 27. न यत्र शोको न जरा न मृत्यु नार्ति न चोद्वेगरुते कुतश्चित् यच्चित्ततोद कृपया निन्दविन्दां दुरन्तु दुःख प्रभानुत दर्शनात्.
In that planet of Satyaloka, there is neither bereavement, nor old age, nor death. There is no pain of any kind, and therefore there are no anxieties, save that sometimes, due to consciousness, there is a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service or subjected to unsurpassable miseries in the material world.
Verse 28. ततो विशेषं प्रतिपद्य निर्भय स्तेनात्मनापो नलिमूर्तिरात्वरन् ज्योतिर्मयो वायुमुपेत्य काले वायात्मनाखं बृहदात्मिलिङ्गम्.
After reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. And one after another, he gradually attains stages of existence from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, and airy, until he reaches the ethereal stage.
Verse 29. घ्राणेन गन्धरसनेन वैरसं रूपं च दृष्ट्या श्वसनं त्वचैव श्रोत्रेण चोपत्य नभो गुणत्वं प्राणेन चाकूतिमपुपैति योगी.
Translation. The devotee thus surpasses the subtle objects of different senses like aroma by smelling, the palate by tasting, vision by seeing forms, touch by contacting, the vibrations of the ear by ethereal identification, and the sense organs by material activities.
Verse 30. स भूतसूक्ष्मेन्द्रियसङ्कीर्ष मनोमयं देवमयं विकार्यं संसाध्य गत्या सह तेन याति विज्ञानतत्त्वं गुणसन्निरोधम्.
Translation. The devotee, thus surpassing the gross and the subtle forms of coverings, enters the plane of egoism, and in that status he merges the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, in this point of neutralization, and thus reaches egoism in goodness. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahatattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization.
Verse 31. तेनात्मनात्मानुपते शान्त मानान्दमयो वसाने एतां गति भागवतीं गतो यः स वै पुनेन विसर्जेतङ्गम्.
Translation. Only the purified soul can attain of the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction in his constitutional state. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional service is never again attracted by this material world, and he never returns.
Verse 32. ते श्रुति ते नृपवेदगीते त्वयाभिपृष्टे च सनातने च ये वै पुरा ब्रह्मण आहतुष्ट आराधितो भगवान् वासुदेवः.
Translation. Your Majesty Maharaja Parikshit, know that all that I have described in reply to your proper inquiry is just according to the version of the Vedas, and it is eternal truth. This was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma, with whom the Lord was satisfied upon being properly worshipped.
Verse 33. न हयन्तो न शिवपन्था विशतः संसृताविह वासुदेवे भगवती भक्तियोगो यतो भवेत्.
Translation. For those who are wandering in the material universe, there is no more auspicious means of deliverance than what is aimed at in the direct devotional service of Lord Krishna.
Verse 34. भगवान् ब्रह्मकात्सर्येण त्रिरण्यवीक्ष मनीषया तद्व्यवयस्तकुटस्थो रतिरात्मन् यतो भवेत्.
The great personality Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, studies the Vedas 3 times, and after scrutinizingly examining them, he is certain that attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the highest perfection of religion.
Verse 35. भगवान् सर्वभूतेषु लक्षितखात्मना हरिः दृश्ये बुद्धियादिभिर्दृष्टा लक्षणैरनुमापकैः.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul, and this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence.
Verse 36. तस्मात् सर्वात्मना राजन् हरिः सर्वत्र सर्वदा श्रोतव्यः कीर्तव्यश्च समवतर्व्यो भगवान् नृणाम्.
O King, it is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, always and everywhere.
Verse 37. पिबन्ति ये भागवत आत्मनः सतां कथामृतं श्रवणपुष्टेषु संवृतं पुनन्ति ते विषया विशुदिताशयं व्रजन्ति तच्चरणसरोहारुनिन्तिकम्.
Translation. Those who drink through oral reception, fully filled with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purify the polluted aim of life known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of Him, the personality of Godhead.
Please accept my give me any forgiveness, please. If I made any mistake in pronunciation, please forgive me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Pushti Devi Mataji. And it's so very beautifully recited in Sanskrit and also in English translations. Thank you so much. Okay, so we shall move on to Srimad Bhagavatam. I shall share my screen. Okay, so before we start Srimad Bhagavatam, we shall start with Mangalacharan prayers. Oh. अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांशां श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांशाम्। हे कृष्ण करुण सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमो ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिविकास स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृणुतां स्वकथाः कृष्णः पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृद्यन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृसतां। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। एते चांशकलाः पुंसः कृष्णस्तु भगवान् स्वयं इन्द्रारिव्याकुलं लोकं व्रजयन्ति युगे युगे। इदं भागवतं नाम पुराणं ब्रह्मसंहितम् उत्तमश्लोकचरितं चकार भगवान् ऋषिः निःश्रेयसाय लोकधन्यं स्वस्ते नमः। कृष्णे स्वलामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह खलु न सर्वेषामेष पुराणार्को अधुनोदितः। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्ग्रये। अथ विश्वेश विश्वात्मन् विश्वमूर्ते स्वकेषु मे स्नेहपाशमिं चिन्निधुं पाण्डुषु विष्णुषु त्वयि मेनन्यविषया मतिर्मदपते सकृत्प्रतिमुद्वहत दग्धगङ्ग्यवभूदन्वति। श्रीकृष्ण कृष्ण सख विष्णु ऋषभावनिधृग्राजन्यवंशदहनानपवर्गवीर्य गोविन्द गोद्विजसुरार्ति हरावतार योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते। योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते। योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते। तुलयामलवेनापि न स्वर्गं न पुनर्भवं भगवत्सङ्गीसङ्गस्य मत्येनां किमुतशिषः। पुनश्च भूयाद् भगवत्यनन्ते रतिः प्रसङ्गाश तदाश्रयेषु महस्तु यां यामुपयां सृष्टिं मैत्रेषु सर्वत्र नमो द्विजेभ्यः। ॐ नमो भगवते राधा गोविन्दाय नमः। हरे कृष्ण। Okay, thank you everyone. So we are in the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto and second chapter. So the Lord in the heart. So we are at the end of this chapter. So verse number 36 and 37. So just these are the conclusive verses for this particular chapter. So conclusive verses before that, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj about the Lord, how one the yogi has to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead by completely controlling all the senses and concentrating only on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he is explaining all these things based on the Vedas. So completely based on the Vedas. So further, Sukadeva Goswami is saying, after summarizing everything, one has to always remember Krishna in all times and circumstances. He is always accompanying in the form of Paramatma in all the living entities. So that is the last verse. Bhagavan sarvabhuteshu lakshitaha swa atmana harihi drusyaihi buddhya adibihi drashta lakshanaihi anupamanakaihi anumapakaihi. So likewise, one can perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a Paramatma in each and every living entity. So he is, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Upadrashta Anumanta cha Bhatta Bhokta Maheshwaraha Paramatmeti Chapyukto Deheshu Purusham Paraha. So that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is called Paramatma, who is Upadrashta Anumanta Bhatta Bhokta Maheshwaraha. So he is Paramatma. So he is Purushah Param Dehesmin Purushah Param. He is situated along with the living entity, and he is Purushah Param. He doesn't belong to this material world, but he is accompanying with the living entity. So one's duty is always to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead and acknowledge each and every moment. So here Sukadeva Goswami is saying that one has to remember that Lord all the time, and by glorifying and by hearing about him and remembering about him in all times and circumstances and all places. So likewise, Sukadeva Goswami is saying, we are in the second Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, second chapter, verse number 36. Tasma sarvatmana rajin harihi sarvatra sarvada srotavyah kititavyasya smartavyo bhagavan drunam. Tasma sarvatmana rajan. So therefore, O king, sarvatmana is the soul. So the translation is this: O king, it is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, always and everywhere. Harihi sarvatra sarvada. So what are the activities? Srotavyaha, Kititavyasha, Smartavya, Bhagavandranam. So likewise, Sukadeva Goswami is saying, all the times and circumstances one has to hear about only the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also confirmed in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sutta Goswami is saying, Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan satvitam patihi srotavyaha kitavyasya jayaha pujyasya nityada. All the time and circumstances one has to Tasmad ekena manasa, with complete concentration on only the Supreme Lord. Bhagavan Satpatam Patihi. He is the Lord of all the devotees. So, and Krishna also mentions that Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu Ma Manusmar Yudhyacha, all the times and circumstances. So likewise, Sukadeva Goswami sings, so purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Srila Sukadeva Goswami begins this verse with the word Tasmat, or therefore, because in the previous verse he has already explained that there is no auspicious means for salvation other than the sublime process of Bhakti Yoga. The Bhakti Yoga process is practiced by the devotees in different methods like hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping, praying, rendering service in love, becoming friendly, and offering all that one may possess. All 9 methods are bona fide methods, and either all of them, some of them, or even one of them can bring about the desired result for the sincere devotee. But out of all the 9 different methods, the first one, namely hearing, is the most important function in the process of Bhakti Yoga. Without hearing sufficiently and properly, no one can make any progress by any of the methods of practice. And for hearing only, all the Vedic literatures are there, compiled by authorized persons like Vyasadeva, who is the powerful incarnation of Godhead. And since it has been ascertained that the Lord is the super soul of everything, he should therefore be heard and glorified everywhere and always. That is the special duty of the human being. When the human being gives up the process of hearing about the all pervading personality of Godhead, he becomes victim to hearing rubbish transmitted by man made machines. Missionary is not bad because through the mission one can take advantage of hearing about the Lord. But because missionary is used for ulterior purposes, it is creating rapid degradation in standard of human civilization. It is said here that it is incumbent upon the human beings to hear because the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are made for that purpose. Living beings other than human beings have no ability to hear such Vedic literatures. If human society gives itself to the process of hearing the Vedic literature, it will not become a victim to the impious sounds vibrated by impious men who degrade the standards of the total society. Hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. One who has perfectly heard from the perfect source becomes convinced about the all pervading personality of Godhead and thus becomes enthusiastic in glorifying the Lord. All the great acharyas like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Chaitanya, and Saraswati Thakura, or even in other countries, Muhammad, Christ, and others, have all extensively glorified the Lord by chanting always and in every place. Because the Lord is all pervading, it is essential to glorify Him always and everywhere. In the process of glorifying the Lord, there should be no restriction of time and space. This is called Sanatana Dharma or Bhagavata Dharma. Sanatana means eternal, always and everywhere. Bhagavata means pertaining to Bhagavan, the Lord. The Lord is the master of all time and all space. And therefore, the Lord's holy name must be heard, glorified, and remembered everywhere in the world. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity so eagerly awaited by the people of the world. The word cha includes all the remaining processes or methods of bhakti yoga as mentioned above. So this is Prabhupada is mentioning. So here the entire paragraph and purport, it is about glorifying the Supreme Lord in the mode of bhakti, devotional love. So or we have to hear, Prabhupada is mentioning, we have to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead beyond this material world, who is in the spiritual world. And so especially Shrinuta Shraddhaya Nityam Gurnasasya Swacheshtitam Kalena Nati Dirghena Bhagavan Vishte Hridi. One has to hear continuously Shrinuta Shraddhaya Nityam Gunatasya Swacheshtitam, and he will need to receive very nicely Swacheshtitam by his personal endeavor. Then Lord will enter into his heart and cleanse all the dirt. That is the cleansing process. And then Lord will reside in the heart, in the cleansed heart. And so that is by hearing, all about hearing. And then, so this is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Achinam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. And one can engage in all kinds of activities like the Ambarish Maharaj. He has lived in a exalted life. And so here one has to hear from the Vaishnavas, not from, and Prabhupada mentions that if a Vaishnava Mukha Udgirnam, if we hear from any non-devotees, then it is like that is Potam Krishna Katamritam. So it is Potam Krishna Hari Katamritam. It is so beautiful. It is the nectarian. Then see, Prabhupada mentions should Ashran one nakarhe chet. So at any point of time, one should not hear. Otherwise, sarpochistam yatapayaha. Otherwise, the snake is licking the pawl. So the pawl is, even though it is nectarian milk or whatever it is, as soon as the snake touches, then immediately it will turn into poison. So we have to hear sufficiently and properly by the authorized people, authorized devotees coming from the Guru Parampara. And all this, and Prabhupada, and for hearing only, all Vedic literatures are there, compiled by authorized persons like Vyasadeva. This is Chakre Satpata Samhitam. So this is also Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the ripened fruit of all the Vedic literatures. So this is very beautiful to hear all this, the Sanskrit recitations, which utilizing all parts of the mouth. It would one feels these transcendental vibrations when you are reciting Sanskrit. The sound coming from the navel to the heart and the throat. It is not simply through the lips. It would utilize all parts of the sound vibrating the parts of the mouth, whatever it is in the body. So that is for compiled by authorized persons like Vyasadeva, who is powerful incarnation of Godhead. And since it has been ascertained that Lord is super soul of everything, so he is giving, if I wanted to eat, he will give permission. Upadrashta Anumanta cha, he give Anumanta, and he is the Upadrashta, he is the overseer. And so because of that, we have to remember, otherwise if we forget Krishna for a moment, then Krishna is always observing. So it is also mentioned in the Upanishads that two birds sitting on a tree, one is eating fruits, one is just witnessing. So therefore, he should therefore be heard and glorified everywhere and all the time. That is the special duty of the human being. So this is when we see, even though kings, Swayambhumanu, when he was ruling his kingdom, he was with all his subjects and people and wives and everyone. Sabariha saprajaha kaman bubuje anya avirodetaha संगीयमान सत्कीर्तिः सस्त्रीभिः सुरगायकैः प्रतिवूषेषु अनुबद्धेन हृदा शृण्वन् हरेः कथाः. Every day morning प्रतिवूषेषु अनुबद्धेन हृदा शृण्वन् हरेः कथाः. So likewise, he used to live with all his subjects very beautifully. He lived, even though he was enjoying all the royal opulences, and he will nasekuhu bhagvat param, he never fall down from his position. Nishnatam yogamayasu munim swayambhumanam yedabram shitam bhogaha nasekuhu bhagvat param, he never fall down, even though he is enjoying everything, because he is remembering every day. He hears Bhagavatam and all the Puranas, everything coming, hearing from the devotees. So that likewise, Saevam Swantaram Ninya Yuganam Ekasaptatim Vasudeva Prasangena Paribhota Gatitrayaha Yuganam Ekasaptatim. 71 yoga cycles have been passed. By what? Vasudeva Prasangena Paribhota Gatitrayaha, just by speaking and hearing about Vasudeva. So that is, all these scriptures are only to hear and one can relish. When human beings gives up the process of hearing about all pervading personality of Godhead, he becomes victim to hearing rubbish transmigrated by man-made machines. This is Mayam Chitadapashriyam. So when Vyasadeva in his meditation, Apasyat Purusham Purnam Mayam Chitadapashriyam Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranihire Amale. When Vyasadeva is in the meditation, he has been in the meditation 2 times. One is before he meeting Narada Muni and after meeting Narada Muni. Before meeting, he has seen that people are so much absorbed in material activities and sinful activities, committing so many things. He is so compassionate, and then he has given split one Veda into 4 and gave to the 4 rishis, Jaimini, Paila, Vaisampayana, like that. And then he has compiled Mahabharata also and gave to Vaisampayana, and Puranas gave to Ramaharshana, and then they have given to their disciples and grand disciples, and they have spread everywhere. But still, he was not happy, because even though Vyasadeva was very compassionate, even though he meditated and he compiled everything, he was not happy. Later on, when he met um, Narada Muni says, that you have not glorified enough about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then once again, Vyasadeva, he goes into meditation. Now, Bhakti Yogena Manasi. Vyasadeva, second time meditation is Bhakti Yogena Manasi. Samyak Pranihite Amale. At that time, Apasyat Purusham Purnam Mayam Chita Dapashriyam. That Maya is next to the Supreme Lord. So, as soon as if we forget Krishna for a moment, and he becomes victim to hearing the rubbish transmigrated by man-made machines. So that, but here Prabhupada mentions machinery is not bad, because through the machine one can take advantage of hearing about the Lord. But because machinery is used for ulterior purposes, if you get headphone, for what purpose? Hearing Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam when the devotees are speaking, not for the music, ulterior musics like that. It will do. It will kill the intelligence. It will kill the intelligence that we are the soul. Like Yanna Rajinta Givido Rachananuvada Shrinvanti Nivishyaha Kukata Matignihi. Brahma says to the all the demigods that Yanna Vrajinta Agabido Rachananuvada Shrinvanti and Yeni Vishyaha Kukata Matignihi. If we don't speak about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he will hear about the Kukata Matignihi. Yastu Suta Hatabhagaihi Duvirasta Sara Tam Tang Shipanti Asaraneshu Tamassu Hanta. And then he will fall down gradually into the lower beings, Tamassu Hanta. So one has to be very careful what needs to be heard and what not to be heard, from where one has to hear from. So likewise, Prabhupada is mentioning, one can take advantage of hearing about the Lord, but because missionary is for ulterior purposes, it is creating rapid degradation. That is the current material world. This is Kali age. And then further, Prabhupada says, it is said here that incumbent upon the human beings to hear, because the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are made for that purpose. All the scriptures, they have got purpose behind, and this is Yogam Sarvanga Naipunam. It is so beautiful in all the ways, in all directions. Yogam Sarvanga Naipunam. Tam imam te prakshami yogam sarvanga naipunam. Rishinam shrotu kamanam. This is everyone desire to hear it. Rishinam shrotu kamanam yogam sarvanga naipunam. So, and then here Prabhupada says, living beings other than human beings have no ability to hear such Vedic literatures. So each one particular creature, it may be one sense is prominent in one creature, but human has got all senses, they are strong in the only human being. So if he doesn't use, he will be victim to any one of the sense. And then so here, so that if we keep hearing about Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and one will be completely absorbed in the Krishna. Kritatmano Krita Pranamsha Bhaktihi. That is, Pratatmanuhata Pranamsha Bhaktihi Anchito Gatim Anvim Prayunte, he would attain Krishna at the end. That is, he will completely absorb, he will give his heart to Krishna whenever we hear this Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. When we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra without any offenses, then one will get the come to Krishna very closely through the sound vibrations. One who has perfectly heard from the perfect source becomes convinced about the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus becomes enthusiastic in glorifying the Lord. This is to glorify the Lord. So as soon as one hears about the Lord, it will be all kinds of miseries will be evaporated from our life. Asesam klesam vidatte gnanvada shravanam murarehe किं वा पुनस्तच्चरणारविन्द paragaseva ratiratma labdha. Just by hearing, one will be free from asesha samklesha samam vidatte. Then, if one really engages in the devotional service, what to speak of his glories and his achievements, something like that. Maitreya Muni Rishi says all these things. But even to do that one has to make some kind of pious activities to hear and Krishna Katha and participate in the bhajans and everything. So, and further, Prabhupada mentions that all the great acharyas like Ramanuja, Madhva, Chaitanya, Saraswati, even other countries like Christ and Muhammad, everyone they glorified about the Supreme Lord. So, it is essential to glorify Him. So, when we hear and discuss, this is मच्चित्ता मद्गतप्राणां बोधयन्त परस्परं कथयन्त क्षमां नित्यं तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च. This is, they derive so much of happiness when this is only happens when we utter the sounds of the Supreme Lord and His glories and pastimes. रमन्ते योगिनो अनन्ते सच्चानन्दे चिदात्मनि इति रामपदेन असौ param brahma abhidiyate. These transcendentalists, they derive so much of pleasure and by connecting to that personality. And so he is the also called param brahma abhidiyate. He is the ramapaden asau, Rama, Lord Ramachandra. Just by hearing the name, it one derives so much of pleasure. That is param brahma abhidiyate. So that is, and further, so that's why one has to hear Rama, Krishna, Hare everywhere. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti shodashakam namnam kalikalmashanashakam nataha parataha upayaha sarva vedeshu drusyate. So this is, one has to always glorify Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, like the chanting of this Mahamantra. So it is the summary of all the Vedas. And it can be done, there is no restriction of time and space. So this is called Sanatana Dharma. This is an eternal constitutional position of a living entity. And so, and also Prabhupada explains it is Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is always under the protection. No one has to worry about anything. It is this is also Arjuna also mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. त्वमाद्यः पुरुषः पुराणः त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परमनिधानं त्वम् अव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे. O my dear Lord, you are the protector of this Sanatana Dharma. Sanatanastvam Purusho Mato me. So that is, but we have to carry out our duties, our prescribed duties. That is needed. That is Manusham, Durlabham Manusham Janma. This is very difficult to attain when we are in the womb of a mother. At that time also we pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he in the womb, oh my dear Lord, I am very taking torture in this womb for 9 months. Whenever baby is in the 7th month, he get the consciousness and he starts thinking of it. Dehi anya dehe vivare jataragni nasrug. Vinmutra Kopapatito, Brushitapta Deha, he falls in the Vinmutra, stool and urine in the womb. And then he's there, and there is a Jatadagni as well. It is so much of heat. So that way, Brushatapta Dehe, his body is always getting torture in the womb. And he is just bending just like a bent. So he keeps moving in the right direction of the womb, in the mother's womb. So that is also, he feels so much of terrible difficulties there. He prays to the Atapta Mano Hridaye Avisitam Namami. I am here, and also the personality, the super soul is here along with me. I am offering my prayers. Soham Vrajami Saranam Hekuto Bhayam me. For what? Hekuto Bhayam me. Yenadrusi Gatarasi Gatiradarsi Asuto Nurupa. So the baby prays. In the child, the 7 months child is praying to the Supreme Lord, because he is remembering, he is able to remember 100 pastimes of his previous birth and death, all his pastimes, his karma. So as soon as he prays to the Lord that, oh my dear Lord, here it is very difficult. Let me just go out of this world. But at the same time, if I go out of the world, once again it is there. It is a horrible. There, Maya is going to capture me and put me into birth and death, this life cycle. So his position is bit miserable. In the womb, miserable. Outside, again, miserable. There is no peace for him. So here, Prabhupada is saying, the Lord is the master of all time and all space. And therefore, the Lord's holy name must be heard, glorified, and remembered everywhere in the world. So this is why he comes into this, because of the diseased condition. So Amayo Yasha Sarvabhutanam. It is because of the diseased condition. Amayo Yasha Sarvabhutanam. Jayate Enu Surata. O Vyasadev. It happens just because of the diseased condition. But one has to, how one can counteract it. Tadevihi Amayam Dravyam. Whenever that activities, whatever the activities he wanted to do, because of the diseased condition, if that activity is offering as a devotional service to the Lord, it will turn into Tadevihi Amayam Dravyam Na Punati Chikichitam. It will turn into a medicine and it will cure his disease. And then he'll be free from all material entanglement. So that's why one has to glorify and remember everywhere in this world. And what it is the Lord's name all the time. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity so eagerly awaited by the people of the world. The word cha includes all the remaining processes or methods of Bhakti Yoga as mentioned above. This Bhakti Yoga is very easy. Just we go to the temple, Madhyashna Darshana Sparsha Puja Suti Abhivandanaihi Bhuteshu Sarvatmana Satvena Asangamena Cha Bhuteshu Madbhavanaya Satvena Asangamena Cha. So this is, one has to go to the temple and offer his obeisances. How long one has to go to the temple and do the deity worship? As long as he realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead existing in all the living entities. Once he realizes that, then he doesn't have to stick to the temple worship. He can wander anywhere of this universe. So that is also mentioned. So he can see the Lord everywhere. There are no boundaries. Not only that, he could see the Lord everywhere. So likewise, Sukadeva Goswami saying, Tasma sarvatmana rajan harihi sarvatra sarvada srotavyaha kititavyasya smaktavyo bhagavandrunam. So that's why one has to hear about only the Supreme Lord. Let us see further what Sukadeva Goswami is saying. पिबन्ति ये भगवत आत्मनः सतां कथामृतं श्रवणपुटेषु संवृतं पुनन्ति ते विषयविदूषिताशयं व्रजन्ति तच्चरणसरोरुहान्तिकम् पिबन्ति ये भगवत आत्मनः सतां. So pibanti, when we who drink, those of Bhagavataha Atmanaha Satam, about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees and his most dear devotees. Pibantiye Bhagavata Atmanaha Satam. Katamrutam Sravanaputeshu Samvrutam. This is the nectar of the messages. Katamrutam Sravanaputeshu Samvrutam. Whenever this katha is going into the ears and fully filled, then what happens? Punantite Vishya Vidushrasayam, and it will be purifying all the Vishya Vidushrasayam and polluted aim of life within this material enjoyment. Vishya Vidushrasayam, it will be purified. And once it will be purified, Prajanti Tat Charana Sarorhantikam, and he will go back to the lotus feet. Sarorhantikam. That is very beautifully. That's why one has to hear Krishna Katha, Katamritam, Saravanaputesh Sambritam, Punantite Vishya Vidushitasayam, Rajanti Tacharana Sarurahantikam. This is in the beginning also. Vyasadeva also says this one. Nigama kalpataror ghalitam palam sukumuka damluta drava samlitam pebata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhravo rasika bhui bhavukaha. That is all the bhui bhavukaha. Swadu swadu pade pade. One has to, this is rasadhanam, rasam, all these things. One has to hear the katha. The katha contains everything. Yogam sarvanga naipunam. Okay, let us see what Prabhupada is saying in the purport. So the sufferings of human society are due to polluted aim of life, namely lording it over the material resources. The more human society engages in the exploitation of undeveloped material resources for sense gratification, the more it will be entrapped by the illusory material energy of the Lord, and thus the distress of the world will be intensified instead of diminished. The human necessities of life are fully supplied by the Lord in the shape of food grains, milk, fruit, wood, stone, sugar, silk, jewels, cotton, salt, water, vegetables, etc. in sufficient quantity to feed and care for the human race of the world, as well as living beings on each and every planet within the universe. The supply source is complete. And only a little energy by the human being is required to get his necessities into proper channel. There is no need of machines and tools or huge steel plants for artificially creating comforts of life. Life is never made comfortable by artificial needs, but by plain living and high thinking. The highest perfectional thinking for human society is suggested here by Sukadeva Goswami, namely, sufficiently hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. For men in this age of Kali, when they have lost the perfect vision of life, this Srimad Bhagavatam is the torchlight by which to see the real path. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada has commented on the Katamrutam mentioned in this verse and has indicated Srimad Bhagavatam to be the nectarian message of the personality of Godhead. By sufficient hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, the polluted aim of life, namely lording it over matter, will subside, and the people in general in all parts of the world will be able to live a peaceful life of knowledge and bliss. And for a pure devotee of the Lord, any topics in relation with his name, fame, quality, entourage, etc. are all pleasing. And because such topics have been approved by great devotees like Narada, Hanuman, Nanda Maharaja, and other inhabitants of Vrindavana, certainly such messages are transcendental and pleasing to the heart and soul. And by the constant hearing of the messages of the Bhagavad Gita and later of Srimad Bhagavatam, one is assured herein by Srila Sukadeva Goswami that he will reach the personality of Godhead and render him transcendental loving service in the spiritual planet of the name Goloka Vrindavana, which resembles a huge lotus flower. Thus, by the process of Bhakti Yoga, directly accepted as suggested in this verse, by sufficient hearing of the transcendental message of the Lord, the material contamination is directly eliminated without one's attempting to contemplate the impersonal Virat conception of the Lord. And by practicing Bhakti Yoga, If the performer is not purified from the material contamination, he must be pseudo devotee. For such an impostor, there is no remedy for being freed from material entanglement. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of second canto, second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Lord in the Heart. So just to see once again, these points Prabhupada is meant. This is in this purport. This is the sense enjoyment is like a lording over the material nature. This Krishna says that one, Daivi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratjaya. It is very difficult to overcome this material nature maya. So I think we'll take a few more minutes. So just to go into the this verse, Prabhupada's purports are so beautiful. And mam ye prapadhyante maham etam tarindite. And the Lord says that whoever is surrendering to me, I will easily cross this material essence. I'll make them to cross. This is bhavam buddhi vacha padam 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 yad vipadam natesham. This is the material